Good morning, this is Chris
and Brian
reading the Society News for Friday the 26th of January 2018. On Tuesday, there will be 2 coffee mornings held in aid of the Society on Tuesday the 30th of January. The first in the West Wight at the end of the Line Cafe, Yarmouth, from 10:30 to 12 p.m. and the second in Bembridge at the Cloisters from 10:15 to 12 p.m. Please go along and support these if you are able. The dolphins will be swimming this coming Tuesday evening, 30th of January, at the Waterside Pool in Ryde. The swimming group has sole use of the pool during the session, and there are lifeguards in attendance. If you are interested in joining the group, please contact the Society to advise us of your swimming ability and for us to advise the Waterside Pool.
Wednesday. The weekly coffee morning will be held at Millbrook House this Wednesday, 31st of January. The coffee mornings are not just for blind and partially sighted people. Anybody can come along and have a cup of coffee or tea as well as a piece of cake. The Owls will also be meeting on Wednesday, 31st of January at 2 p.m. in Millbrook House. We will be joined by the Isle of Wight Bat Hospital, and they will be bringing along a bat and talking about these fascinating mammals. The group lasts approximately 45 minutes, which is then followed by tea or coffee and cake. The group is open to all, not just members.
Thursday. The Knit and Natterers are meeting on Thursday, the 1st of February at Millbrook House. The group meets from 10:30 till 2 p.m. You can knit or just natter, and then later in the afternoon volunteers come in and read to the group from different topics.
Any other news? Message from Don Haver. The years have passed quickly, for it is almost 20 years ago that Dolphin Swimming Club first took to the water at Medina's swimming pool in Newport on the 3rd of February 1998. When that pool closed for refurbishment, the swimming club moved to their new home at the Waterside Pool in Ryde. On the 3rd of February this year, the club will be 20 years old, and the swimmers will be having a celebratory dinner at the George Hotel in Newport. Many of the swimmers have been coming for years, and 4 who attended on that first evening are still swimming. Let us hope the club continues for many years in the future, and we can welcome new members to take to the water. The Isle of Wight Fellowship meeting will be held at Bethany Evangelical Church, Union Street, Newport, on Saturday, 27th of January at 3 p.m. The speaker this month is Mr. Peter Wells. There will be hymns, a quiz, story reading, and a short Christian message followed by tea. A collection is taken from which donations are made to the Torch Trust for the Blind. Hymn books and scripture are available in large print and braille. For further details, please contact Jackie Moore on 520797. We have been contacted by the Moor Green Allotment Society in Cowes, who have a vacant willow plot on their site and are looking for a worker in willow who would like to take it on as an ongoing project for a small annual rental. They have also recently coppiced the trees and have a large quantity of willow rods available for basket making, hurdles, etc., in exchange for a small one-off contribution to the allotment funds. If this may be of interest to you or someone you know, please contact Laura Jasper, Member Services Manager, on 52 2205 or enquiries at iwsb.org.uk by Monday 5th of February.
And now for scaffolding news. Please find below a list of known footway obstructions for works including scaffolding or hoarding. We are unable to include end dates as many are extended on a week-by-week basis. Also included are tables and chairs permits that have been issued in the past week. Bay and Ventnor area. There is currently scaffolding at 70 High Street, Shanklin, Cutting Edge, 25A High Street, Sandown, 26 and 26A High Street, Shanklin, Rye Chris Court, Victoria Avenue, Shanklin, and 48 North Street, Ventnor. There are currently hoardings at the former Carlton Hotel, Esplanade, Sandown, and Wight City, Culver Parade, Sandown. There are currently skips at 1 Melvin Street, Sandown, and outside Sandown Pier on Pier Street, Sandown. New scaffolding is due up at 10 High Street, Shanklin. It's due up on the 5th of February.
Cowes area. There is currently scaffolding at Red Squirrel Shop and Bella, 73 and 74 High Street, Cowes, Max Aitken Museum, 83 High Street, Cowes. There are currently hoardings at 70 to 73 Arctic Road, Cowes, 93 High Street, Cowes. There is currently a skip at 42 St Andrew Street, Cowes.
Newport area. There is currently scaffolding at 38 Key Street, Newport, 18 Lugley Street, Newport, Domino's, 41 St James's Street, Newport, and on Bowling Green Lane, Braunston House, Lugley Street, Newport, Forget Me Not, 69 to 70 St James Street, Newport, and numbers 3 and 4 Holyrood Street, Newport. There is currently a skip at the former BHS store, Pyle Street, Newport, and new scaffolding is due up at Readers on 33 South Street, Newport. It's due up on the 19th of February.
Ryde area. There is currently scaffolding at the Yar Bridge, 99 New Road, Brading, the Star Inn, High Street, Ryde, 16 Cross Street, Ryde, 11 Well Street, Ryde, the Leather and Suede Shop, 21A Union Street, Ryde, Corner House, Church Street, Seaview, ABRI, Madeira Road, Seaview, 51 High Street, Ryde, Yan Wu's, Union Street, Ryde. There's currently a skip at Slipway, High Street, Seaview. A new skip is due at Holy Cross Church, Pitts Lane, Binstead, due on 21st of February.
West Wight area. There is currently scaffolding at 2 Tennyson Road, Freshwater, and there is currently a skip at Florins, High Street, Yarmouth.
This week's In Touch. In Touch, in this week's episode, Kathy Yelf, CEO of the Macular Society, talks about changes to NICE guidance on the treatment of AMD. Now patients will have the right to be treated sooner than has been the case, and Kathy suggests that patients insist on receiving treatment if their healthcare provider tries to refuse them. Fazilet Hadi from RNIB describes the Marrakesh Treaty, which has been set up to enable ratifying countries to avoid certain copyright requirements, enabling them to share books in large print, audio and braille, so that blind people can access a wider range of material. Labour MP and member of the European Parliament, Mary Honeyball, expresses concern that post-Brexit the treaty may no longer be effective. Presenter Peter Wight, producer Cheryl Gabriel.
And now the Isle of Wight County Press for Friday the 26th of January. The headline: Drug linchpin behind bars. Drug dealer Robert Hughes, said to have been the linchpin in the supply of heroin, cocaine and cannabis between Birmingham and the island, began a jail term of nearly 10 years this week. His DNA was found in stolen cars, which used false number plates, as well as on mobile phones which linked him to dealing. Also found in the vehicles abandoned on the island were large sums of money and weapons. Police are also investigating possible links with Hughes and £2 million worth of cocaine and heroin, as well as a handgun which was unearthed by officers during a parallel drugs investigation. Hughes, 31, who had at one stage lived on the Isle of Wight, had been due to stand trial for 3 offences of being concerned in the supply of diamorphine, cocaine and cannabis. He pleaded not guilty to the offences in September last year, but changed his pleas to guilty and was jailed at the Isle of Wight Crown Court for 9 years and 8 months on Monday. The offences all took place between November 2015 and February 2017. Victoria Hill, prosecuting, told the court how cars with cloned number plates had been spotted on the island. When cars were recovered by police, they contained drugs, cheap mobile phones and batons. On one occasion, a car with false plates was spotted, but the driver escaped. In the car was £2,830 in cash, scales and car number plates, as well as 4 mobile phones. Hughes' DNA was found on one phone, which contained messages mentioning a figure of £100,000. Another vehicle linked with Hughes of Wood Norton Albury, West Midlands, was found to have £6,700 worth of cocaine inside. On September the 8th, 2016, police stopped a black vehicle with 3 people inside, but it pulled away at high speed. One of the occupants later said he was heading for the Bestival and came from Birmingham. Hughes' DNA was found in the car. In a parallel investigation concerning 2 other individuals, more than £2 million of cocaine and heroin was seized on the Isle of Wight. Hughes' fingerprints were found at an Isle of Wight address on a carrier bag which contained 3.4 kilograms of caffeine, used as a cutting agent to add to pure cocaine and heroin. Representing Hughes, Oscar Vincent said his client had been brought up by parents who were both addicted to Class A drugs, and he had been placed in care. He moved to the island when in his 20s, but in 2015 a friend from the Midlands told him he had a drug debt of £27,000. He said his initial motivation was to help a friend to whom he was loyal.
Eli is aiming for the mountaintop. An island youngster with autism and a heart as big as a mountain aims to hike up Snowdon in aid of a children's charity. 6-year-old Eli Wells, together with his sister Millie, 3, and his parents Tim and Rosie, aim to raise £1,085 for Family Fund, a charity that aims to improve the quality of life of families coping with bringing up disabled and seriously ill children. The amount equates to £1 for every metre Eli and his family of Ride walk up Mount Snowdon, the highest mountain in Wales, in March. Eli, who has developed quite a passion for walking, was diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder in October 2016 and started being homeschooled last year to meet his needs. Eli said, "What an exciting thing for me to do. The Family Fund helped me and we would like to give a little back, so we have set this challenge to raise as much money as we can." Last summer, the youngster reached the top of Pen y Fan in the Brecon Beacons with Millie and his parents. The walk on that occasion was designed to raise money to cover travel costs and equipment for Eli. Tim added, "We found Eli enjoys a lot of walking and learns along the way. When walking, he is free and can be himself." Alongside his journey, Eli will be trying to raise awareness children with autism can achieve big things with the right help. To make a donation and to follow Eli's journey, visit www.justgiving.com/fundraising/Eli-Wells and on Facebook at www.facebook.com/walkingwitheli.
Station Cafe attacked by vandals. Vandals trashed the Gaslight Cafe Sandown, smashing a window and destroying window boxes made by children. The damage occurred overnight on Wednesday, but the owner of the cafe insisted the show must go on and opened as normal the next day. Cafe owner Ali Smith said the toilets were also trashed and the door to the community centre kicked in and the lock damaged. She said, "I am unable to open it now, the door is jammed shut. We had people arriving for Cockney pie and mash in the morning, so we've had to clean up and carry on as normal." The cafe, based at Sandown Railway Station, hosts a variety of activities for all ages. Ali said, "We have a close relationship with the youth, so it's disheartening."
Master plan revealed for hospital future. Huge plans to future-proof the island's healthcare system could see patients transferred to the mainland for specialist care and St Mary's Hospital become an emergency and routine care centre. With huge debts, rising demand and workforce pressures, health bosses said big changes were needed in order to provide safe and sustainable care for patients on the Isle of Wight. A review in 2016 found the following services would be clinically unsafe if they were left in their present state: urology, ear, nose and throat, paediatrics, general surgery, general medicine, urgent care, ophthalmology, obstetrics and gynecology, and the neonatal intensive care unit. As previously reported by the county press, there were 5 redesign options on the table, ranging from staying the same to sending everything to the mainland, apart from the maternity and A&E. But now a middle ground option has been put forward. If approved, the plan would see 89% of current activity retained at St Mary's, while patients needing complex treatment would be sent to the mainland. Children needing more than 24 hours care at a hospital would also be taken to the mainland, with some exceptions, and premature babies needing complex care would also be transferred. A seamless transfer system to and from the mainland would be developed under the plans, bosses said. Staff may also have to travel to other hospitals to share the workload and improve their skills, but patients will only have to travel if it is absolutely necessary, with bosses predicting a reduction of 500 patient journeys each year. Stephen Parker, Isle of Wight NHS Trust Interim Medical Director and Clinical Lead for the redesign, said, "Overall, this proposal will enable us to reduce the number of times people are asked to travel to the mainland, as more routine care and follow-up appointments will take place on the island. Given the significant challenges we face, we do not believe that simply staying as we are and doing nothing is safe or sustainable. But neither do we want to see the wholesale transfer of multiple services off the island, given the huge impact that would have on the quality of life for patients and their families or carers, and the significant transport costs involved. We believe our recommendation is therefore in the best interests of patients as it stands, but we fully expect this outline model to continue to evolve as we undertake further discussions during this year. Islanders will be able to have pre-operation assessments closer to home, and some outpatient appointments would be carried out using technology rather than face-to-face. The plan, which would bring an £80.6 million financial improvement over 30 years, will go before the Isle of Wight Clinical Commissioning Group, CCG, on Thursday. If approved, a public consultation will be launched towards the end of the year.
Presenter gives backing to campaigners in tree row. Wildlife presenter Chris Packham has joined forces with campaigners trying to save the umbrella tree in East Cowes. The tree was planted more than 100 years ago by Queen Victoria's road manager, along with an identical tree which was planted in Cowes. The Cowes tree on Prince's Green was felled 4 years ago after it became diseased. Now the East Cowes tree is under threat because it has a fungal infection. During a visit to the tree last week, Mr. Packham videoed himself walking around it and said, "It does have a fungal infection. We would like to know if it is bad enough to warrant the tree being felled." Campaigners have tied ribbons to the tree to highlight their campaign to save it. Among the campaigners is the great-grandson of Queen Victoria's road manager, Chris Gutteridge, whose 100-year-old father is still alive and was very distressed when he heard about the plans to fell the tree. He said, "All East Cowes residents who remember the town as it was consider the umbrella tree and the small shops at the town centre and should stay that way. Any visitors to East Cowes will notice this area is still where local people congregate in what they see as the natural heart of the town. The tree is only a few yards from the town hall, also a symbol of the town centre." At a meeting of East Cowes Town Council last Thursday, members resolved to send a letter to the Isle of Wight Council calling for an immediate halt to plans to remove the tree. Councillors requested assurances due to legal process had been carried out by the authority before any plans to remove it were given the go-ahead. Councillor Barry Abraham, Isle of Wight Council Cabinet Member for Planning and Housing, said, "We understand how important this tree is to local people and would like to reassure residents we are working with East Cowes Town Council and Island Roads to explore a range of options to prolong the life of the tree, while keeping the area safe for people. A decision to fell the tree would be taken only as an absolute last resort. East Cowes councillor Carl Love added, "Our tree is more than just a tree. It's a symbol of everything our town is doing to shape its future. Cutting our tree down is just a step too far."
Julie loses 5 stone and gains a new career. A slimmer who changed her life by losing more than 5 stone is shaping a new career, helping others achieve their weight loss dreams. Julie Heap, 34, of Hewitt Crescent, Newport, joined her local swimming group 2 years ago and dropped from 16 stone 3 pounds to 10 stone 10 pounds. After training as a Slimming World consultant at the organisation's National Academy in Derbyshire, she has taken the reins at the Wooden Bridge Group. Since she joined as leader at the beginning of January, 76 new members have joined and have lost an incredible 20 stone between them in just 2 weeks. Like many slimmers, Julie has been dieting on and off for years, with varying levels of success. Sometimes she would lose 1.5 stone before falling off the wagon and regaining the weight. She said, "Losing over 5 stone has changed my life. I can still eat all the foods I love. I can have my tea and biscuits in the afternoon and feel normal. I can go for a walk and be sociable without feeling I might stop breathing if I try to talk. I can go out with my friends and family without feeling like an embarrassment, and I can even start to think about planning a family, knowing I'd now be a healthy mum. And that if I do go wrong and have a bad day or week, I know my group is there for me, and with no humiliation or judgment, they will set me straight." Julie's Slimming World group is held at Church Close Community Centre every Wednesday at 3:30 p.m, 5:30 p.m, and 7:30 p.m. For more information, either visit the group or call 07792 940 990.
Call to back charity after teens' cancer. A Newport family whose son underwent gruelling cancer treatment last year are calling on locals to support the charity that helped them through it all. In the build-up to World Cancer Day on February the 4th, the Early family are hoping locals will support Click Sargent, the UK's leading cancer charity for children and young people. The family had their world turned upside down when their son Nicholas was diagnosed with Hodgkin lymphoma, aged just 14. Susan, Nicholas's mum, said, "When we were told Nicholas had cancer, we were in total shock. It was unbelievable as we didn't know he was ill. It wasn't like he was lying on the sofa for ages, he just had a pain in his shoulder." Following the diagnosis, Nicholas underwent 4 rounds of chemotherapy in Southampton. During his treatment, Susan says Nicholas was very determined and got on with it all. He was ill with headaches and muscle spasms, but was a perfect patient. During this difficult time, the family received support from Nikki, their Click Sargent social worker, who provided practical, emotional and financial support. The family also stayed in one of the charity's Home from Homes in Southampton. Susan said Nikki was always there for us. She was there from day one when Nicholas had chemotherapy. She helped make Nicholas's life easier and happier. Nicholas has now been in remission for 6 months, and the Early family are keen to give something back to the charity. They are urging locals to get behind World Cancer Day. Supporters can donate £2 to get a Click Sargent band against cancer wristband. Nicholas said, "Click Sargent made such a difference to me and my family. Buying a band and shouting about this campaign is such an easy way to make sure you can help other families. I hope everyone in Newport gets behind this." To find out more about World Cancer Day and to get your own Band Against Cancer wristband, visit www.clicksargent.org.uk/World Cancer Day.
TV behind scenes at Isle of Wight Festival. The man with arguably the best job in the world, Isle of Wight Festival boss John Giddings, is adding another string to his bow by hosting a TV programme. Hits, Hype and Hustle, an insider's guide to the music business, is on BBC 4 tonight, Friday, at 9 p.m. John will be telling the story of how live performance has become a £1 billion industry. The show will feature some of the biggest names in rock and pop, sharing their insights from life on the road and on stage, and will take viewers backstage at the Isle of Wight Festival. John spoke to the Isle of Wight County Press this week. He said, "I was asked to host one of their programmes, and they followed me around and filmed me at work, including at the Isle of Wight Festival. I hope people will find it interesting, as people don't know things like what money is involved. It doesn't give all the secrets away, but people will discover a few things, like the costs. For example, it costs me £1 million each year on security and policing. The logistics are also interesting. Live performance is bigger than ever, and there are significantly more festivals now than when we started. So all the acts are twice as expensive now than they were just 5 years ago, as there is so much competition. It's how they get the bulk of their money, not through selling records anymore, unless your name is Adele or Ed Sheeran. Acts today make their money through touring. The Isle of Wight Festival has a crew of about 200 over the weekend, but throughout the year it is organised by a tight-knit team of 12 to 15 people. We have learnt a lot over the years, and it is a thrill to work on an iconic worldwide brand, which is what the Isle of Wight Festival is. The history of it is really important to me. I am an old hippie, really. I was there in 1970, and I love the stories and the old artwork. It is a great hobby and really good fun. I love working on tours with the likes of U2 and Madonna, but you are there working on their shows, whereas the Isle of Wight Festival is my own show. I can be really creative. It's rewarding. Asked whether he has the best job in the world, John said, "I can't think of a better job. I pay groups I love to play their music in a field on the Isle of Wight, and I get all my mates to come." A whole raft of acts for 2018 are due to be announced in the next couple of weeks, including Liam Gallagher, The Killers, Depeche Mode, and Kasabian on the bill. So who has slipped through the net and proved elusive? John said, "Of course, the ultimate is to get Oasis, but we've got Liam this year, so that is great. Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, they will never happen, but they are the ones that spring to mind."
Sleepy Betty gets settled in at school. Northwood Primary School's newest member of staff spends a lot of time sleeping on the job, according to head teacher Sarah Hussey. Trained by Ability Dogs for Young People, Betty, the therapy dog, joined the school team to help students with their reading and to reduce anxiety levels. Children with a good attendance will be rewarded by getting the chance to take Betty for a walk. However, for the moment, Betty, who is just 9 weeks old, spends most of her time asleep in a crate in the school office. Sarah said the school undertook a consultation before adopting the dog. It's something I've been thinking about for a long time. Betty will also be working closely with phobic children to help reduce their anxiety around animals. She is going to be a really good member of staff. Betty is being cared for by Pet Doctors Newport, who said they look forward to her regular visits. Ability Dogs for Young People helped more disabled young people in 2017 than ever before. The charity now has 17 working ability dogs on the island, more than double the number at the end of 2016. A further 12 puppies are in training. The ability dogs help disabled young people and children on the island, such as those with cerebral palsy, epilepsy and autism. Carol Court, founder and chief executive of the charity, said, "I am immensely proud of what we have achieved in a relatively short time. We still have so much more to do, though. We would not have achieved this without the support of our volunteers and the community. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for their continued support. Anyone interested in fundraising or becoming a puppy parent can find out more at www.abilitydogs4yp.org.uk.
MEP backs anti-fracking campaign. Green Party MEP for the South East, Keith Taylor, was on the island on Saturday campaigning against climate-destructive oil drilling on the Isle of Wight. Mr Taylor, who is vocal in his opposition to fracking and oil and gas drilling, met islanders at a proposed drilling site at Brook Beach. He was joined by Freshwater and Norton councillor Daniel James and then went on to host a public meeting on the alternatives to oil and gas drilling and the importance of renewable energy in investment on the Isle of Wight. After the meeting, Mr Taylor went on to Wilberforce Hall, Bryston, where he listened to concerns about oil and gas drilling. He then visited the Gaslight Cafe Sandown, where he attended an anti-fracking and oil and gas drilling information session hosted by Frack Free Isle of Wight. Mr Taylor, who is the European Chair of the Climate Parliament and a member of the European Parliament's Environment Committee, said the further exploitation of oil and gas resources, either by conventional or unconventional means, is a form of dangerous climate denial, especially when the Isle of Wight has the capacity to be a world leader in renewable energy production.
Fire Chief's warning to crash Good Samaritans. A senior fire officer has urged people to take care when faced with road traffic accident casualties after a car, which flipped onto its roof, was righted with the driver still inside. Emergency services were called to the single vehicle accident in Merston Lane near Arreton at around 1 p.m. on Monday, January the 15th. Newport Fire Station manager Leighton Bryant posted a tweet stating the car had rolled onto its roof but was rolled back onto its wheels by Good Samaritans whilst a casualty was still inside. The officer said, "We would never discourage anyone from helping, but please be more mindful of neck and spinal injuries as more harm can be done." He told the county press a fire crew assisted in the transfer of a man to an ambulance. If a casualty is not breathing, I would encourage the public to try to get to that person straight away. However, if someone's conscious or semi-conscious and in no immediate danger, they should not be moved or it could lead to further injury. I would be very reluctant to right a vehicle unless there was no other way of getting to that person to transfer to medical care. Incidents where vehicles have been rolled back onto their wheels are quite rare. Perhaps in this case there were natural concerns for the person in the car. Perhaps it would burst into flames as there were fluids from the car on the road. In that situation, the best thing someone can do is to turn off the ignition.
Sharing the joy of making pictures. Artists working at Dimbola have been busy sharing their skills with the next generation. Youngsters from Gurnard Primary School took a trip to Dimbola Museum and Galleries, Freshwater, to meet artists and try different art techniques. Parent helper Nicola Hall said, "It was probably the best school trip I've been on, and the children were clearly impressed with the workshops on offer. It was really fun because you could meet the artist and learn how they make pictures," said Claudia Bostock, 6. Alice Butler, 7, said, "I loved the decoupage and making the pictures out of plants." Volunteer Mary Flynn said, "Dimbola is a wonderful cultural resource." Julia Margaret Cameron is a great role model, and her former home is a venue with the potential to support many areas of the curriculum for children, students and people of all ages.
Swimming project gets helping hand. A new programme to help children with sensory or learning disabilities, Sensory Swim, has been awarded a grant of £2,808 by Wight Aid Foundation. Sensory Swim was established by Genevieve Jolliffe, who grew up on the island and who returned from Los Angeles 2 years ago with her family, including her non-verbal son, Cash, who has autism spectrum disorder, ASD. 5-year-old Cash attends Medina House School, Newport. "I'm a mum to an autistic son who absolutely loves water. Like many children on the autistic spectrum, he would be in the water all day if he could," said Mrs. Jolliffe. However, Cash has no idea of the dangers of water and, being on an island, I'm in constant fear he could drown. I called Ryde Waterside Pool to ask if they could help. Being incredibly understanding, having taught autistic children previously and wanting to help their community, they agreed to running special swim classes and Sensory Swim was born. We're delighted we can bring this to our community and hope it will be just the beginning to help our island children with ASD, sensory disorders and learning disabilities to become safer swimmers. Ryde Waterside Pool manager Todd Miller, with teachers Ash Sweet and Hannah Knight, have volunteered to teach the classes. The programme was given a kick-start in September with a grant from the Isle of Wight Council Sports Development Unit. Because of this initial help, it became obvious sensory swim classes were a necessity for island children, added Mrs. Jolliffe. The Wight Aid Foundation was created to provide financial support for projects and activities that would benefit the island community. If you have a child with sensory or learning disabilities and would like to attend Sensory Swim, visit www.sensoryswim.org or email info@sensoryswim.org. And it's goodbye from Chris.
And Brian.
Hello, this is Madeline.
And this is Lester.
And we're reading some letters today from the County Press. And the first one is Stop Politicians Ruining Our Isle, and it's from Paul Fishburn in Northwood. I heard with some disappointment about the decision made by the local council to chop down the umbrella tree in East Cowes. I understand it is of a good age and has some disease, but is, as far as I can tell, structurally sound, and people have already offered to build a frame around it, at no cost to the town council, to prevent injury from falling branches. As I understand it, despite the gales we've had recently, it has suffered not one jot of damage. An offer was also made to fund an independent inspection of the tree to ensure its safety. The reason I have highlighted this particular issue in East Cowes is it's a great place to live. I lived there most of my adult life. It seems sad to me the authorities seem determinedly complacent to allow, even facilitate, the destruction of the character in the town. This goes hand in hand with the mismanagement of the island and country in general. It annoys me these pompous, blustering buffoons seem to forget they are where they are, not to further their standing in society, but represent the voters' views, certainly not to ride roughshod over our opinions, and just go ahead and do what they think is best. As far as I'm aware, we're still supposed to live in a democracy with elected officials to represent our views. If no one turned up at this poorly publicised meeting, the tree would be gone, chopped down by Island Roads. How are they in charge of that? It seems to me and others I know that we average Joes are fast becoming pawns or cannon fodder for the well-to-do public elite to ride on the back of. If a chief executive of a national company disastrously mismanaged it, would he be handed another company to destroy? No, he'd be sacked and possibly taken to court, unless of course he was Jeremy Hunt. There should be no such thing as a career politician, whether national or local. It should be a calling, not a job. Cut that iconic tree some slack instead of down, and stop destroying our heritage. In these days of austerity, we need to protect what we hold dear, not destroy it, whether it's a much-loved tree or a national service.
And this is a letter from the Island MP Bob Seeley. Fight for Isle of Wight recognition. Last week I took the island's case to Westminster by securing a debate in Parliament. There are many wonderful things about life on the island, but I argued that government rules counted against us because Whitehall doesn't recognise island status when devising fair funding formulas for local government, and that directly impacts on the amount of money that the council has to spend on the services on the island. Scottish islands have an allowance provided, with the help of English taxpayers, by the Scottish Government. On our island we have nothing comparable. The purpose of calling a parliamentary debate is that a government minister must attend and must respond, so it's a good opportunity to put something on the public record, to start or to continue a campaign and to force government to address an issue. I explained why it's more expensive to provide public services on the island, and to date no government has recognised that fact. A study undertaken by Portsmouth University estimated the extra costs were estimated at 6.4 million every year. The university broke down the costs into three. The first is forced self-sufficiency, the lack of spillover of public goods provision to and from neighbouring authorities. The second extra cost is the island's premium, which refers to the additional cost of conducting business on and with the Isle of Wight. Examples include the relatively higher prices that may be charged by contractors or reflected in the price of goods and services. The third extra cost is what the university has described as dislocation, the costs associated with physical and perceived separation from the mainland. In addition to these, I cited two other reasons why being an island counted against us. First, the way government projects are assessed always counts against the island because we are separate from the mainland, and secondly, we don't qualify for Rural Services Delivery Grant, which is given to isolated communities because the rules do not recognise the isolation caused by water, i.e. the Solent.
And this is Eloquent MP from Tom Bodman in Shanklin. Please convey my appreciation to Bob Seeley MP for his excellent performance in the House of Commons. I refer especially to his speech during the defence debate on January the 11th. He spoke eloquently about the need to increase the defence budget and made a powerful case for our BA Systems radar factory at Cowes. He deserves our support in pursuing these ambitions.
Technology will help us keep Fishbourne clear, and this is from Keith Greenfield, Chief Executive Wight Link, Portsmouth. I write to update islanders about our £45 million investment in the Fishbourne to Portsmouth route and answer a couple of questions from your readers. Fishbourne resident Tony Cooper wanted to know more about how we will marshal traffic at the port this summer. Following extensive discussions with the Fishbourne Parish Council, we are talking to the Isle of Wight Council about installing automatic number plate recognition, ANPR, technology and increasing the number of check-in booths from 1 to 3. We expect this will radically reduce queuing in Fishbourne Lane this summer, as there is ample room at the terminal to park up to 300 cars at any one time. The double-deck boarding ramp has already improved the efficiency of loading and unloading our current flagship, St Clair, and will be used for our new ship, Victoria of Wight, of course. We will also be installing ANPR in Portsmouth. We cannot guarantee there will be never any more congestions on local roads, as problems can arise that are out of our control, but I can assure you we are doing our best to address the issue.
Heads need banging together from Nikki Harris in Bembridge. I read Jonathan Young's column with interest. 10 Bembridge parish councillors were elected last May because of principles they stood for and gave the village hope that discussions and decisions in the future would be open, transparent and parishioners' views listened to. Since the election, several of these councillors are now actively pursuing policies contrary to those they were elected to deliver. I have attended meetings that have been very unpleasant to both listen and watch. Some councillors have shown no respect to the few councillors being true to their election pledges by either using body language or nasty comments. Decisions and policies are obviously being developed outside of meetings, as discussion during these meetings is limited and frosty and seems to exclude certain councillors. This has to stop. There must be a code of conduct they should follow. There must be someone in higher authority to mediate. The village deserves better than this.
A letter from Joe Hardy Bishop in Shanklin. Where's our rink? There is a great injustice being perpetrated on this island, and it is high time it was addressed. Your sports section last week reported on the excellent performances of the island's ice skating teams at a competition in Nottingham. More than 60 girls, with their coach Terry Smith and supporting adults, spent time and money to travel to the Midlands to represent the Isle of Wight, and yet they have nowhere on the island to practice. It is a disgrace. These girls are learning valuable skills and qualities such as teamwork, commitment, keeping fit and discipline, and are a great credit to us all here on the Isle of Wight. They have to travel to the mainland to practice, and they have to be accompanied. Each session, therefore, consumes a lot of time and energy. While their parents are devoting attention and money in supporting their talented daughters, they cannot be fundraising here. Indeed, why should they be expected to do it all themselves? We all know they were let down very badly with the Ride Rink debacle. I find it amazing the teams have managed to survive. It is even more amazing they are competing and succeeding at national level. These girls are a credit to us, so the council, local organisations and the public should be offering them support. They need somewhere to practice. Surely there are buildings, current eyesores, which might be converted. With a local rink, those girls could make us extremely proud and bring further valuable recognition. It would also mean we could host return events, which would be another badly needed income stream.
And now we're looking back. 100 years ago, on January the 26th, 1918, a Portsmouth soldier was charged with drunk and disorderly behaviour in Ryde. The mayor said he was sorry to see the prisoner, as they had had no cases of drunkenness in Ryde, despite 2,000 soldiers being stationed in the town for 12 months. It was decided, as he had served his country so well, he would only be fined 5 shillings, in the hope of better behaviour in the future. And the meat shortage on the island was attributed to the Southampton market. Butchers representing 27 businesses attended the market the previous weekend with very barren results. A normal purchase would have been about 35 bulls and 200 sheep. However, they were only allotted 5 bulls and 3 sheep, causing a greatly reduced supply on the island.
And this is 75 years ago, and January the 30th, 1943. Island MP Captain Peter MacDonald was among the 20 MPs involved in an accident at a southern aerodrome. They were on a glider coming into land when the nose of the glider dipped and hit the ground. Fortunately, he escaped with just bruising. And another little item. Many hotels and guest houses on the island were taken over as hospitals or training facilities during the war.
And 50 years ago, on January the 27th, 1968, the Esplanade Pavilion at Ryde had been a feature of the town for many years, but its days looked to be numbered. A recommendation for an entertainment centre to be built on the site was being adopted in principle by Ryde Town Council. Earl Mountbatten of Burma was a guest of honour at the Royal Naval Association Bembridge branch dinner.
And 25 years ago, January the 22nd, 1993, an island dentist became the first in the UK to offer filling without drilling. A new £20,000 machine offered pain-free dental surgery without anaesthetic. It used kinetic energy and very fast shaping to complete the filling. The machine, which had been on trial in the USA, was installed at a Cowes dentist. And another item. An axe hung over 3 South Wight theatres. They faced closure after borough councillors recommended over £500,000 in budget cuts. Members of the Environmental Health and Housing Committee recommended £600,000 in cuts. A decision was to be made over the closure of Sandown Pavilion, Shanklin Theatre and Ventnor Winter Gardens.
10 years ago, on January the 25th, 2008, protests grew over the Isle of Wight's education reforms, with a march planned to save our schools the following day. 4 Tory councillors also protested by dressing in black and staging a dramatic rebellion at the Isle of Wight council meeting. One said, "I am in black because I am mourning for my own party." Parents and children expressed their disappointment and anger at the council's decision to close many of the island's primary schools. A loss of 3 councillors left a parish council on the brink of being unable to operate. Haven Street and Ashey Parish Council, which was formed less than 2 years before, was rocked by the resignation of 2 councillors, on top of another being banned for not attending meetings for 6 months. When councillors declared personal interests and had to leave the meeting, the remainder was unable to make decisions as 3 people were required to vote.
Now we move on to Wight Memories. And this article is about how telephone revolution began at Osborne, and it's written by James Wolven. 140 years ago, on the Isle of Wight, Queen Victoria had her first glimpse of a technology that would transform the world. At Osborne House, Alexander Graham Bell demonstrated the telephone to the monarch, making the UK's first publicly witnessed long-distance telephone calls. The anniversary of this landmark event in the development of UK telecommunications was celebrated on January the 14th. On that day, in 1878, Alexander Graham Bell demonstrated the new technology to Queen Victoria, calling Cowes, Southampton and London. The Queen liked the telephone so much she wanted to buy it. David Hay, BT's head of Heritage and Archives, said, "This first demonstration of the phone to the Queen by Alexander Graham Bell is a significant moment in telecommunications history. Her approval and enthusiasm would have been an important step forward for a service which was still in its infancy." Bell had made history less than 2 years before on March the 10th, 1876, with the first successful speech telephone call to his assistant Thomas Watson with the words, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you." From then on, development of the technology was swift. The UK's first long-distance trunk line was opened between Brighton and London a few years later, on December the 17th, 1884, said Mr. Hay. The line was built by the General Post Office, GPO, from which today's BT is descended, and licensed in the United Telephone Company to connect their exchanges and customers. Previously, the range of a telephone exchange was limited to 5 miles from the centre of a town, but on August 7th, 1884, the Postmaster General withdrew the restriction. This meant telephone companies could apply for licences to work in the UK and create exchange areas, allowing more people access to the telephone. The liberalisation meant any member of the public could make calls from the public call offices that started to spring up in places such as shops and railway stations.
In 1896, the trunk network was nationalised and brought under the control of the Post Office. The first cross-channel subsea telephone cable linking 2 countries was opened between England and France on April the 1st, 1891. The French first proposed establishing telephone communications between the 2 nations. BT's predecessor, the GPO, handled the operation in the Channel. The crew of GPO cable ship HMTS Monarch braved snowstorms and high seas to lay the cable from St Margaret's Bay, Dover, to Sangatte, Calais. The French and British governments had already ensured landlines on each side of the channel were laid. The subsea cable provided the final link. Successful experiments using radio transmission in telephone calls began in 1902. In October 1915, AT&T successfully made a call from Arlington, Virginia, to the Eiffel Tower, the first time speech had crossed the Atlantic. When engineer B.B. Webb's words "hello" and "goodbye" were heard in Paris. Another significant event was the completion of the Rugby transmitter in January 1926. Resulting in a satisfactory conversation being held between Rugby and Rocking Point in Long Island, New York, just a month later. The next step was to create a sustainable commercial service.
This was launched on January the 7th, 1927, when the inaugural call was made between Walter S. Gifford, President of American Telephone and Telegraph Company in New York, and Sir Evelyn Murray, Secretary of the Post Office in London. Mr. Gifford said, "No one can foresee the ultimate significance of this last achievement of science and organisation. It will certainly facilitate business. It will be a social convenience and a comfort. and through the closer bond which it establishes, it will promote better understanding and strengthen the ties of the friendship. From London, Sir Evelyn answered, "The opening of a public telephone service across the Atlantic between London and New York is a conspicuous milestone on the road of telephone progress and marks the beginning of a new epoch in the development of communication between our two countries." Although it wasn't cheap, around £15 for a 3-minute call, the service proved popular. After a few weeks, it was extended to all of England and Wales in the UK, and to Maine, New Hampshire, Indiana, Ohio, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New Jersey in the USA. The next milestone in a long-distance distance communication was the opening of TAT-1, the first transatlantic telephone cable, in 1956.
Stretching 2,240 miles from Glenalloch Bay near Oban in Scotland to Clarenville, Canada, the submarine cable trebled the amount of calls that could be made between Britain and North America. When it went live at 6 p.m. on September the 25th, 1956, it allowed for 36 simultaneous transatlantic conversations. In its first year of service, it carried almost 300,000 calls at a cost of £3 for 3 minutes. The advent of the first transatlantic cable was hailed as a major breakthrough in telecommunications and heralded the age of reliable and cost-effective mass communication across the Atlantic. Using technologies developed during and after the Second World War, including new techniques for placing cable and booster stations on the seabed 2 miles under the ocean, it cost £12.5 million and took 3 years to complete. By any standards, this was a historically significant engineering achievement. Today, there are more than 26 million residential phone lines in the UK, and billions of phone calls are made every year, all of which was sparked by a nod from Queen Victoria at Osborne House.
And this is from the column Rachel Roswell, My View. And it's called The Happiest Train Journey You'll Take. My friends probably wouldn't have me pegged as a railway fan. I'm not your traditional train spotter with a little notebook taking down engine numbers at Clapham Junction, nor am I a steam buff, desperate to be shoveling coal into a firebox as I wipe smuts from my eye at Haven Street. However, I am a huge fan of the Island Line. I very much enjoy the novelty of boarding an old London tube train to take the short journey up and down Ryde Pier, or sometimes further afield into the wilds of Sandown. So it was with dismay I recently read our MP Bob Seeley was calling for the complete modernisation of the island's railway system. Responding to a consultation on the future of the Island Line, he said more investment was needed in new, faster trains, stations and tracks if the island and the service were to flourish. He said, "It's dreadful. I'm not expecting a high-speed service, but can we have a ride that feels like a train service and not a Land Rover going over an island bridleway?" But Bob, surely that is part of the charm of travelling on the island's railway. I'd go as far as to say it should be the linchpin of Visit Isle of Wight's marketing campaign to attract tourists. Not only do you board a step-back-in-time, quirky old railway carriage, but you bounce along the track with everyone springing up and down in their seats, really feeling like you're travelling. As kids, we always used to go to the back of the bus for a bumpy ride, and similarly, with Island Line trains, you get the ride of your life without having to step inside an amusement park. I took a trip on the island's railways with my late father one summer, and as we hit Brading Marshes, with the carriages lurching one way and us bouncing up and down the other, we both realised how ridiculous we looked and started laughing. We were helpless with mirth by the end of the journey. I cannot now get on the train without it starting to make me smile. If I catch the eye of another po-faced passenger doing their own private dance on the springy seats, I find it difficult to stifle my guffaw. In his recent Radio 4 show, recorded at Ventnor, comedian Mark Steele also recognised the fun to be had on the island's railway. "I love that train, it's brilliant," he declared, to cheers from the Winter Garden audience. It's not even a recent tube train, but one from the 1930s, making its full 20 years out of date even for the island. It runs at speeds of up to 3 miles per hour, and the wonderfully crafted seats are so well designed they even manage to bounce up and down when the train's standing still. It all rattles so much, if you look down reading, you think you must be whipping through the island and liable to take off. Then you look up and find you're barely moving. If you find a newspaper in the seat, it's probably announcing the abdication of the king, he joked. Come on, visit Isle of Wight Island is one of our unique selling points. Let's make it a feature of it and name it as one of the 7 modern wonders of the Isle of Wight now. What could the other 6 be?
And this is from Matthew Chatfield. Forest creation not quite so simple. I can just remember Plant a Tree in 73. It was a government-sponsored programme to give school children and local councils an opportunity to plant trees in response to the disastrous Dutch elm disease epidemic, a scourge that radically changed the landscape of much of England, including the Isle of Wight. I well remember the sad demise of the big elm tree at the back of our garden in Sandown. No more climbing up into its prickly embrace for little Matthew. So in 1973, proudly I brought a little birch home from the school and thrust it into the front garden. Perhaps that influenced my eventual choice of career as a countryside worker. Now there is another official programme to plant a whole load more trees, a northern forest. The Prime Minister said this month the government would help create a vast ribbon of woodland between Bradford, Leeds, Manchester and Liverpool. More woodland is going to be better for everyone, and it's not quite the same thing as more trees. You see, people love planting trees, but they really don't like looking after woodland. A great many of the trees planted back in 1973 did not survive to maturity, including mine, I'm sorry to say. The reasons were varied, but come down to either a lack of planning or a lack of proper aftercare. Just planting trees isn't enough. They need to be in the right place, or sooner or later they will be in somebody's way and get cut down. Or worse still, planting the wrong tree in the wrong place can harm existing wildlife, making things worse. Yes, there are some habitats even more rare and valuable than woodland. Chalk downland, one of our island specialities, is one of them. Aftercare is even trickier. In the attractive Johnny Appleseed mythology, all you need to do is scatter acorns from your pocket and trees will magically spring up in due course. Well, sorry chum, they usually won't. If you plant a tree, be prepared to look after it, on and off, for quite a while. If you don't, you're not going to get much of a woodland any time soon. That's where we really haven't got the right idea. Looking after woods does not mean leaving things to Mother Nature. Forest management in England involves cutting trees down sometimes, and people don't like that. If we lived in the virgin rainforest, maybe they'd have a point, but we don't. On the Isle of Wight, every woodland you see is created directly or indirectly by human activity, and to keep these well-loved habitats sustainable, some intervention is still required. So when you hear about tree planting programmes, or new national forests, remember, plant a tree in 73 and ask yourself these questions. Is there any plan to look after these new trees once they are in the ground? And would this money be better spent on managing the forests and woodlands we already struggle to care for?
Behind the news. Behind the Isle of Wight's fortifications. For the first time in more than 70 years, the sound of army boots was heard inside Bembridge Fort. Uniquely, the fort was the only one to host all three armed services on one site during the Second World War. The Royal Artillery and Home Guard provided protection to the radio station, now demolished, and gun batteries. RAF personnel controlled the fort's chain home low radar system, and the Royal Navy manned and monitored a network of undersea anti-submarine loop detection and listening systems. Not since the Second World War has there been any forces activity on the site until recently, when the National Trust gave 70 members of 17 Regiment Royal Logistics Corps who were training on the island a guided tour of the site. They were able to visit all areas of the fort and given an insight as to what roles soldiers and other servicemen there from Queen Victoria's reign through to the Second World War undertook. The fort, which nestles on top of Culver Down, was built in 1867 as part of the Solent's extensive Palmerstonian defence system to repel a predicted invasion by the forces of Napoleon III, which never happened.
The hexagonally shaped fortification was the main stronghold for the island's south-east coastline, initially with an establishment of 4 officers, 106 soldiers and an ordnance of 6 heavy guns. It acted as a keep to the 4 coastal batteries in Sandown Bay, commanding the space between Brading Haven and the sea to prevent enemy landings. It was also designed to act as a final retreat had the island been invaded. During the world wars that followed, its strategic importance was realised, and shots were subsequently fired in anger against an altogether different enemy, the Nazis. But despite the amount of activity that went on there, mystery shrouds its military occupation before, after, and during the world wars. After 2 hours at the fort, island historian Tim Wander continued the story of the defence of the island at Brown's Golf Course with a guided tour and overview of Pluto, the pipeline under the ocean project. The soldiers were then accompanied by the island's Lord Lieutenant Major General Martin Wight, a former commanding officer with the Royal Army Service Corps, which went on to become the Royal Logistic Corps. Major General Wight addressed the troops and then took time to meet and talk to them.
Some forthcoming entertainments on the island. Opera at Church. Love is in the Air, with a performance by Project Opera at Holy Trinity Church. Project Opera, the People's Opera Company, are presenting Love Unspoken, a concert of love arias and duets from Don Giovanni, The Merry Widow, The Marriage of Figaro, and more. Soprano will be performed by Alisa Vaughan, bass baritone by Ian Wilson Pope, and the pianist will be Jane Carter. The performance starts at 6 p.m. on February the 10th. Standard charge is £15, concessions £8, and children are free. A quarter of the profits will go to support Isle of Wight Pride.
The first Newport Scouts 110th anniversary reunion, and this will take place at Wenders Hall, Woodbine Close, Newport, on Saturday the 10th of February, 7 o'clock till late, and there'll be photos, DVD footage and memorabilia for sale, with refreshments and a bar. All former members are invited to come along to reminisce. Bring your photos and memories, spread the word and help us make this a night to remember.
The Apollo Theatre. Apollo Players' first play of 2018 is a classic French farce. The first play of 2018 from the Apollo Players will be Don't Dress for Dinner, the classic French farce written by Marc Camilletti. It's set in the home of Bernard and his wife Jacqueline, who is about to depart on a weekend visit to her mother. After receiving first the news that Bernard's best friend Robert is coming to visit, and then a mysterious phone call, Jacqueline decides to cancel her visit and stay at home. Why? What is Bernard trying to hide from his wife? Does Jacqueline have her own secrets too? And where does Robert fit in? Come to that, why do Suzette and Suzanne turn up at the house, and are they who they claim to be? The plot and Bernard's plan unravels the cases of mistaken identity, confusion, an angry husband, concealed identities, and all the traditional elements of farce. There are plenty of laughs along the way. If you really want an entertaining night out, book your tickets now via the Apollo's website. Don't Dress for Dinner will be staged at the Apollo Theatre, Pyle Street, Newport, from February the 2nd to February the 10th, and the website is www.apollo/theatre.org.
The fortnightly acoustic nights at Ventnor Winter Gardens are attracting growing audiences. Launched last summer and hosted by local musician Greg Barnes, the nights feature Greg and guest artists and finish with an open mic session. Greg is a former Platform 1 college student who regularly performs at festivals around the country. Last year he played a set at Camp Festival and had his own stage at V-Dub. Guests come from the island and mainland, and events have featured Lewis Shepherd, Tink Beadle and Sexy Pretty Things, among many others. There is no admission charge. The next night is at 7:30 p.m. on Thursday, March the 1st, when guests will be Platform 1 student Harry Spinks, Michael Watson and singer-songwriter Dan Gillivan from Southampton.
The Alzheimer Cafe takes place next Friday, February the 2nd, between 11:30am and 2pm at All Saints Church, Ryde. This is a free, informal meeting place for people living with dementia, their families, friends, carers and those with an interest in dementia. Free transport can be arranged. For further information, contact 220 200 or email alzheimercafe.isleofwight@btconnect.com.
Action on hearing loss will be at Home White House, Crocker Street, Newport, between 10am and 11:30am next Wednesday for their monthly drop-in. Visit for advice, batteries, cleaning and retubing of NHS hearing aids. An appointment is necessary, so please call 529533.
Do you need help getting online, accessing the internet, setting up an email address or job hunting? Cowes Library has a digital support assistant who offers free one-to-one sessions on Friday mornings between 10am and noon. Sessions must be booked in advance. The librarian also has a friendly and experienced family historian offering one-to-one sessions in family history, whether you are just starting out or have research problems. Sessions are in Cowes Library on Monday mornings, £6 an hour, and must be booked in advance. If this time is not convenient, a member of staff who will be trying to arrange an alternative time. Bookings for either of these can be made by calling 293 341.
An information point drop-in takes place for the Citizens Advice Isle of Wight and Aspire Ride information point at Dover Street between 10am and 12:30 every Wednesday. During the drop-in, advisors will help you to decide the way forward, which may include a further appointment, either face-to-face or over the phone. and it's open to all members of the community.
And here are some of the forthcoming entertainments at Shanklin Theatre. On Saturday the 3rd of February, the Lionel Richie Songbook at 7:30. On Friday the 9th of February, Faith, George Michael Legacy, that's at 7:32. On Saturday the 10th, Jimmy Carr, and that's on at 7 o'clock and then again at 9:30. On Sunday the 11th, Spotlight Show, that's at 6:30. Friday the 16th, Milton Jones. Extra tickets have been released for this, and this is on at 8 o'clock. On Wednesday the 21st of February, Isla Wight TG Gala, Mamma Mia, that's at 2:30 in the afternoon. On Saturday the 24th, Just Joe, Joe Brown at 7:30. Going to March, on the Saturday, first Saturday of March, Saturday the 3rd, Chicago Blues Brothers at 7:30. Wednesday the 7th of March, Jasper Carrot at 7:30. Saturday the 10th, Russell Watson at 7:30. And on Sunday the 11th, Jimmy Osmond, Moon River, Me, the Island Savoyodes present. And Thursday the 29th of March, also on Friday the 30th and Saturday the 31st of March, on all those 3 nights at 7:30, Made in Dagenham.
And now some events at the Medina Theatre. On Saturday the 10th of February, the Wight Strollers present Cinderella, and that's on the 10th of February, 11th of February and the 17th of February. And tickets are £9 and can be obtained by phoning 8238880. And that's all we have time for today. So it's goodbye from Madeline.
And goodbye from Lester.
Yeah.